Toby Feels Left Out. It was springtime on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard in the sunshine. One morning, the Fat Controller arrived at Tidmouth's sheds. He had some exciting news. "The new Sodor Museum opens soon," he announced. "Lots of very important people will be coming to the island for the grand opening." "What's a museum?" asked Percy. "It's a place where they put old things so that people can stand and look at them," puffed Gordon. "I want you all to look your best, so everyone is to have a repaint." All the engines were very pleased. Later that morning, Toby met James at Knapford Station. "Have you heard about the opening of the new museum?" puffed James. "We're all having a repaint. I shall look wonderful with a brand new coat of red paint." "I've not heard about that," said Toby. "Why hasn't the Fat Controller told me?" "You must have been left out," chuffed James. That night, Toby couldn't sleep. He kept worrying about what James had said. Why hasn't the Fat Controller told me about the museum? He wondered. Why have I been left out? By the next morning, Toby thought he knew the answer. He met Thomas at Abbey Station. "Have you heard about the museum?" asked Toby. "Yes," puffed Thomas excitedly. "We're all being repainted." "I'm not," puffed Toby sadly. "But I think I know why. I am a very old steam tram. Maybe the Fat Controller has decided to put me inside the museum." Thomas wasn't so sure. "Why don't you ask him?" huffed Thomas helpfully. Toby looked worried. He was frightened of what the Fat Controller might say. "Must go," puffed Thomas. "Really useful engines are really busy ones." And he chuffed away. Toby thought for a moment. "I'll show the Fat Controller that he can't put me in a museum," said Toby. "I'll show him I'm a really useful engine." Toby arrived at Tidmouth's sheds. The Fat Controller was talking to Emily. "Emily, you must go to the yard for your repaint," said the Fat Controller. Emily was very happy. "Another engine must collect your flour," said the Fat Controller. "I'll do it, sir," said Toby quickly. "Thank you," smiled the Fat Controller. And before he could say anything else, Toby steamed off. He didn't want the Fat Controller to tell him he was going to be put in the museum. Toby waited impatiently at the flour mill. Hurry up, he wished. "I must get to the docks as soon as I can." When Toby delivered the flour, he saw the Fat Controller standing on the dockside. He was talking to the dockmaster. The Fat Controller saw Toby. He wanted to speak to him, but Toby steamed off as fast as he could. Later, Toby saw Thomas again. He was pulling Annie and Clarabelle. "I'm off for my repaint," chuffed Thomas happily. "I can pull Annie and Clarabelle for you," said Toby. "Thank you, Toby," tooted Thomas. So Toby pulled Annie and Clarabelle on Thomas's branch line. And while James was getting a shiny new coat of red paint, Toby collected coal trucks from the mine for James. And while Percy was having his repaint, Toby shunted trucks full of stone in the quarry for Percy, even though it was dusty, dirty work. At last, Toby had finished. He was very tired and very dirty. Suddenly, he saw the Fat Controller waiting by the track. Toby still didn't want to speak to the Fat Controller. Quickly, he reversed into a siding and didn't see that a big rock had fallen on the line. Bossed by cow catchers, he cried. Luckily, no one was hurt, but Toby's axle and his cow catchers were broken. He couldn't move. The Fat Controller hurried over. "Why have you been running away from me all day?" he asked. "I don't want to be put in the museum," Toby said sadly. "Why would I do that, Toby?" asked the Fat Controller. "Because a museum is full of old things. I'm an old steam tram, and I'm not really useful anymore." The Fat Controller smiled. "Toby, you may be old, but you are far too useful to be put in the museum. You have worked harder today than any other engine. And as Sodor's only steam tram, I have a very special job for you. First, you will have a special polish. Then, you are to take all the visitors to the museum for the grand opening." Toby felt very happy. He let out a great whoosh of steam. "I've been trying to tell you that all day," added the Fat Controller. Toby smiled. He felt very foolish. So Toby's axle and cow catchers were repaired, and then he was polished until he looked as good as new. On the day of the museum opening, Toby picked up the visitors at the docks and puffed them proudly to the new museum. Toby was proud to be old, and he was even prouder to be the only really useful steam tram on the island of Sodor.